Transport makes up about 19% of Australia's overall emissions. As the world tries to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions, it's not something we can ignore.
Transport emissions keep going up. Why is that? Well, population is growing, transport needs are growing, and the efficiency of the vehicle fleet is not improving sufficiently to offset that.
Australians love their cars. That affection is on full display here at the annual Ute Muster at the Oberon Show west of Sydney.
We got 36 utes, which is a really good roll-up. We've had one bloke travel 10 hours from Inverell to come all the way to Oberon for the show. It's a good day, all day. People spend a lot of time on their cars, as you can see, and just have a good time. Start down the bottom here, the FJ Ute, and then you just go through, charge them 1 to 10. So there's your numbers of your vehicles.
The competition is serious.
Tags, got your tags?
Yeah, hanging up in the mirror right there.
Righto, Esky, yep. Swag, yep. Brake extinguisher?
Yep, in the middle.
Good work?
Yep.
Well, I'm a bricklayer, so I need something that holds weight. Specialised suspension holds 1.2 tonne. Steel tray, almost like a light truck tyre.
Do you know how it is in terms of pollution, carbon pollution?
Oh, it's probably not all that good.
Why do you like having a car like this, a big car?
A V8, because it's a V8. It's an Aussie thing to do. It's all I've owned all my life for the last 30 years is V8s, and won't change.
How do you think it goes on the carbon dioxide emissions levels?
Where do I laugh? She does blow a lot of smoke.
We're a big country with a big driving culture, and particularly in outer suburban areas and the regions, we like big cars. So SUVs are certainly the largest selling cars in this country, and people love their big cars, and in those areas we tend to turn over them much slower. We have a very old fleet in this country.
We are global laggards when it comes to our efforts to reduce emissions. So when we look at the US, particularly when we look at Europe, their vehicles are more efficient than ours here.
One of the most obvious ways to have fewer gas guzzlers is to introduce what's called an efficiency standard. Having one would force manufacturers to sell a larger number of fuel-efficient cars. We're one of the only countries in the developed world without that CO2 standard.
Unfortunately, the matter of having a CO2 standard in our transport system has become a bit of a political football. The federal government recognised the need for us to implement one and started a process back in 2015. And then when their own department made a recommendation for them, they were attacked by the far right of their own party. It was called a carbon tax on cars.
Other countries are going even further, phasing out the sale of new petrol and diesel cars. Do you think Australia should do the same?
I absolutely think we should do that.
What date do you think Australia should put on banning the sale of petrol and diesel cars?
I think the Australian market's got a bit of catching up to do from where we are at the moment. So if anything, our targets here need to be a bit more aggressive than what we're seeing in other markets. So I would expect to start seeing targets that are between 2025, 2030 for banning petrol-driven cars in this country.
For these car lovers, a ban will be a hard sell. Can you see yourself ever buying an electric car?
No way in the world.
Why not?
Couldn't do it. I like my fuel. I'm like, no, it'd be weird. I'd have to have long hair and have a man bun. I'll pass.
Like it or not, electric vehicles, or EVs, are where the rest of the world is headed. But Australia is streets behind.
Electric vehicles last year in Australia were 0.2% of new cars sold. I think that's embarrassing.
What we're looking at here at the moment is a big transition for the industry, automotive in general. I think specifically within Australia at the moment, we lack direction. And direction really being led, I think, by the government would help and support us.
At this car showroom in Melbourne's east, there are plenty of petrol and diesel cars for sale. The only electric car on the lot is the one you can't even buy yet in Australia. So when's this coming out?
So we'll have this in Australian shores by mid-2019. We've got a few here actually in the country already that we're using to share with government, to share with fleets.
So how does it work? It's the top-selling electric car in Europe, but Nissan's delayed bringing it here because there's so little demand.
We've had to reassess our strategy and wait a little bit longer than we probably would have expected to bring the second-generation Leaf to the market. Without that direction from government, I think all manufacturers struggle to understand how quickly they can bring new offerings into the country.
When we look at the UK, for instance, which is a large right-hand drive market that really influences our own, they have about 29 models of electric vehicles priced under $60,000 Australian. In Australia, that same number, we have about 4 models in that price range.
At the moment, there are only about 7,000 electric cars on the roads here, and fewer than 800 charging stations across the country.
If anything, we've seen barriers and disincentives to electric cars. So we haven't seen the support or investment in infrastructure. I'd love to see government making more commitments around their own fleet. And I'd love to see more support for the infrastructure going in so that we've actually got the charging networks in place.
The government's recently set aside $400,000 to work on a national strategy for electric vehicles. The industry body says the plan is unclear, underwhelming and lacks urgency.
The global market has already told us we are banning petrol and diesel vehicles and moving towards electric ones. This isn't a decision that's left for us to be made anymore. The only decision that's left for Australia is, are you going to get coordinated about this rollout, or are you going to wait for it to happen to you and complain about it later?